live. Zoom. That's gotta look trippy from everyone else's perspective. Alright. Shockingly enough, having this scheduled later means I'm more on top of it than I am otherwise. Like, I'm prepared. I'm awake. I've got my phone set up right. Good morning. Dude, all these European football games are throwing off my fantasy football planning. Try to schedule this beforehand so we all have time to get football ready if you're into that. And I wake up and they're playing in London. So, whatever. Oh well. Good morning. Morning. Dang, everybody's up and out. I think the 9:30 time slot works best, huh? Yes, dude, this is my second cup, and because I press my own and I steep it myself, and I get like the nice, what up, Dan? I get like the nice beans and grind them myself. I like do all this at home, but I forget and I walk away and I let it steep too long, and I've like made like crack coffee, and it's like just super strong. And so by the time I'm halfway through my first cup, I'm like, eh. So here I am on second cup. Yeah, strong and black. I don't add any cream or sugar to it. Black, like my metal. Morning, Kenny. Speaking of metal, if any of y'all are metal heads out there, you guys need to get the new Behemoth album. It's pretty good. Yeah, I mean it's 9:30 here for me, so like I've been up for 2 hours. So if I'd have jumped on it, I'd have had coffee a long time ago. But I pace it for y'all. So, morning, Frank. It looks like this channel or this segment has been growing a ton because I've never had 8 people sign on pretty much instantly, 9 people like this. So, perfect timing. There you go. So I wanted to talk about this channel before we get into stuff. I started doing this because I'd been making consistent videos and posting them and editing them and doing nice content. And then I signed up for some classes online and did some school, and I knew pretty much right away that that was going to be difficult to do both. So I started this because I don't have to really prep much. I can just kind of come on and worst case scenario wing it with y'all. And I didn't think it would go beyond the class, or I actually have people hitting me up about it. So good morning. It's very flattering and humbling to hear that everybody's like, eagerly awaiting this and that people watch this later. No offense to anybody else who does live things. I have this weird like mental hurdle that I have to get over in order to actually start watching other live things. And then once I do, I'm glad I do, because they're kind of freestyle and more genuine like that. So for me, it's weird. I never expected anybody to want to watch this even later. If you're like me and you're waking up and there's nothing else on, it's something to do. But so to everybody who actually watches this, like, cheers, thank you, appreciate it. T-shirts are in. I sent a bunch of them out last week. I've got a bunch more ready to go out this week. Yeah, I got all sizes from small to 3X. So let me know. Get them shipped out to you. They're just $20. And that covers shipping. I take the rest. I'll do, all the logistical stuff and get you your shirts and stickers and all that. So if anybody wants shirts, let me know. If you have kids too, let me know. I like throwing in stickers for that. I have nice. Thank you. I appreciate that. Nice. Cool. I've been hearing that people are getting their shirts. I'm glad it's making there. They're making their rounds. So this is the last weekend I'm feeding any of these adults, and then there's a couple in this rack here. This is the last weekend they're gonna get any food, and the temperatures in the racks are the same. I haven't changed anything like that. Cool. I'll get that all squared away for you today. Thank you. And what's going to happen is everybody's going to get their last meals today. And then I'm going to leave temperatures the same for the next 4 weeks, so they can all, digest and get all that out there. And that way, when temperatures do shut down and their digestive system sort of comes to a halt for the winter, there's nothing in there that can rot or cause sepsis or any issues like that internally, which is, if anybody was curious, why, you know, doing that sort of a staggered cut off food, give them a month and then cool, is important. So that's kind of the plan. Everybody, this year is actually going to be the first year where I cool literally everybody. Other than the last couple hatchlings that I have, everybody's going to experience some form of a night drop. Over the last 2 years, I've been shifting the whole collection to experience a small night drop year round. So I set everything for a hot spot to experience 5 degrees of a night drop during the year. And sometimes it's too hot and it just doesn't drop at all. The babies only get cooled as far as the ambient fluctuates. So this room does fluctuate. Like if you stood in here in the middle of June and you stood in here now, it's completely different. So the hot spot will stay on and available for the babies, but what they'll probably experience is obviously shorter light cycles and then a lower ambient. So they will experience a little bit of it. And then in order to sort of, I like to think of it as conditioning grow ups for when they're adults in breeding, is because I implement cycle feeding during the winter times. Animals that are too young to breed, I'm still going to change their food availability to sort of mimic a lack of abundance of food in their natural environment. These animals have been around for millions of years, so they have hardwired instincts that tell them when this is going on, this is what season it is, and you know that's how their body reacts. And then as soon as temperatures start getting cold, they start really trying to pack on food and get it in because they know coming up there's not going to be any food. As soon as the winter comes and it gets cold and rainy, all those prey items they just hunker down for the winter. So snakes can't really eat in certain areas. So when you start replicating that, you're going to trigger those sort of instinctual pre-programming that's up in there. So, but not everybody cycle feeds. Not everybody does temperature cycling. Some people do full ambient, but I don't know. A lot of people have been asking me about having success with breeding for the first couple times, and a lot of it is knowing those sort of cycle details, trying that, and then also just knowing your animals, conditioning them. It's hard to it's hard for me to like take a question and just give you the answer that is going to solve what is going on without knowing more of your system of feeding and all that stuff. Everybody wants to go to bioactive because they want a more natural sort of existence for their animal, I guess you could say. And if you're into that, doing a food cycle is another very natural sort of life factor. You always hear concerns of like overfeeding. Well, having a food cycle and sort of a winter drought or famine, you could say, is kind of like giving their organs a break. So if you're into that sort of train of thought, that's something you could try too. And snakes can go quite a while without food, especially the more sedentary like pythons and boas. My colubrids, they'll shut down for the winter, but I don't keep any of those species that like go full hibernation. I just feed them less. Morning, Brandon. Got your phone, wallet, keys? If you guys haven't seen Adam Sandler's new video, that's hilarious. Kenny, if your ambient is fluctuating, your animals are experiencing that as they're raising up, so that's good. If you want to lighten up the feeding, you can, but because you have a hot spot available to them the whole time, they're still able to digest. So yeah, body tone is a good thing. It's a winter is good to give their organs a break, and they digest everything and it kind of gets rid of all that excess fat. I will say though, having your animals slightly on the overfed side going into the breeding season is good. I've been reading that Reproductive Husbandry of Pythons and Boas book, and the first couple chapters they really emphasize how much resources a female utilizes in reproduction, whether it's a colubrid, a boa, or a python egg laying or not. It takes a lot on them. So because we're sort of keeping them in premium conditions, I guess, and they can afford to do that. It's good to have your females a little bit chunky for the winter season, especially if you're like me and you just don't feed them for like 3.5 months. So if anybody's considering that, but you're a little unsure if your animals can take it, as far as pythons and boas, they can certainly take it. Now, for my rainbow boas, I actually feed them throughout the winter. Obviously, much less and smaller meals, but they eat. And that's because they don't really do too much for their temperatures. Where they're from, they don't get the same fluctuations, so they don't need it. So they don't quite brumate, but they do cool down. So they're going to eat again today, but this will be their last like big meal. Morning, Jan. Glad the shirts are looking good. They're actually really nice. Yeah, they did a really good job on making these. I feel like they'll last a while, so I might have to snag a few out of the box for myself and keep them. So let's see. We talked about some conditioning stuff. I feel like I keep bringing that up, but it is topical this time of year. Who out there has carpets breeding this year or is hoping to breed carpets this year, and what projects? I want to hear what projects people are interested in, because I see have a good one, have a good day at work. um, I see all the breeders and what they work with and what they're producing, and I sort of have an idea of who produces what from that standpoint. And then you can see what sells, so you can sort of get an idea of what people are interested in. But I've never, what are you guys interested in? I know everybody has their own um, species or phenotype preferences, whether it be purist or mixed all over, morphs, or specific. Like a lot of people really work with only one species, and they just really hone in on that and do that really really well. A lot of people are like me, and they have that Pokemon syndrome where you gotta have them all. Oh yeah, the age old incubator. Shake off the cobwebs. Yeah, plug it back in, make sure it still works. That whole deal. Man, incubators are a science. If anybody's doing DIY home build incubators like I've done, it's not just slapping heat tape on the wall, throwing a fan, and calling it good. You'll see different hot spots in there, and it's kind of fun to learn and dial in, but you got to do it ahead of time, because if you're doing it last minute, you feel a little bit rushed. But yeah, DIY incubators are fun. That's a good way to really understand um, biology of eggs too. Brian, you got some womas going this year. Cool, man. I love seeing your woma stuff. You have an eye for good quality. Womas are. I had a couple opportunities this year to either purchase or trade for some womas, and I talked myself out of all of it because I have 4 walls of carpet pythons, and it's just too much. I can't add anymore. Xanthic granites, yeah, those are really sweet. That's a cool project. I could see myself going down that road, in a couple years if I could squeeze more projects in. Yeah, hey, there's another thing. If you're not sure about your incubator, you can always do some maternal incubation. Um, I've always been curious if you could take a clutch of eggs from like a bad mom and give them to a different female, and she'll maternally incubate them for her if like they lay at the same time and they're both in that zone. If anybody out here is watching that or just heard me say that, if you've got two clutches that lay, see if they'll do that. Carpets next year. Ooh, you're going for stimmies. Nice. Man, the whole Antaresia genus. Because like I just said, I have that whole like I need everything. Antaresia is like another rabbit hole I could go down, and it's dangerous. Very dangerous. Um, Look at these beggars. These girls back here are begging for food. Right now, I've been feeding them a lot more than normal, and you think they'd be digesting, and they're not. They're just sitting there chin on the glass, waiting for rats today. Does anybody have questions about like thawing rats for big groups? I know we've talked a little bit about how I switch Mousers over. I don't know. I always just thaw everything in bags, and the scent sort of mixes together. If anybody's curious about that, I don't know. What do you guys want to see? What do you guys want to hear? I'm here just for you, I suppose. Um, I did go through and double check the baby carpets that I have left, and it looks like I actually have a pair of het granites um, available. They're gonna eat today, so they're not pure blood. They do have a little coastal in them, but phenotypically they look like. Let's play with Grebos. We could, dude. My big male, he's out because he knows there's rodents here. That probably wouldn't go well. The female she's great. Um, if anybody is interested in any um, little baby het granites or just wants a fun pet carpet, here you go. I've got a male and female of these guys. Just let me know. They're eating. They're doing well. This is the little female. So, again, not pure. No big deal. Not expensive either. Grebos, huh? Grebos are fun. I actually scared the crap out of one of my neighbor's friends pulling the female out the other day. So my big boy, before I pull one of them out, I'm not going to pull the big guy out. He just won't fit in this frame, and he'll just wreck everything in here. He'll knock stuff over. He's just nuts. And he'll probably try and eat me. He has a feeding response like a retic. The other day I pulled open his door, just kind of looked to see where he was at. He's in the back corner, and he's pretty in tune with me, so I just kind of tapped on the edge. I was like, buddy, tap, tap. And he goes, whew, comes flying out, mouth open, like out the door, like 4 feet, and just kind of landed in my lap. Just pull the hands away, give him a sec, and then pull him out. So he's fun. You just got to turn that feeding response off. The female, she's much more patient and smarter. What up, Ed? She will come flying at the door occasionally. Like if I were to just stand up, she probably would. But when I reach in there, she knows. Just they're smart enough to know. Like if I approach with my hand and I'm doing this sort of step, she knows it's not food. So we'll get her out, I guess. I guess I'm gonna have to start another segment called Grebos and Coffee. I only have 2 though, so it wouldn't be very exciting. We'll get somebody else on here. What up? Oh, I got stuff everywhere. Give me a little one. Not so little anymore. Oh, jeez. All right. Whew. Okay. So, this is my female. She is rainbows and coffee. We'll just do like snakes and something. We'll have to come up with something. But this girl is 2 years old. Both of mine were produced by John Michaels at Black Pearl, but they're unrelated. What thermostats do I use? Vivarium Electronics, Herpstats. Yeah, those are the 2 manufacturers that I have. I have a lot of the VEs because Reptile Basics makes good products, and I found one and I just trust it. So, but Herpstat is great too from Spider Robotics. This girl is 2 years old. I get a lot of people asking if I'm breeding these, and she is not ready yet. She needs at least another 1.5 years on her. I'd prefer to wait till she's like 4. The females are smaller in this species, which is, for all of you python people out there, that's just turn your head upside down. But they're an interesting species. My male is 7.5 feet, and he's almost 6 years old. And this girl, um, well, she's about 4 feet or so, and she's 2.5. So she, she'll probably top out around 5.5, 6 feet. I'd prefer her to be a little more on the mature and bigger size when it comes time for me to introduce these guys because, yeah, I do intend on breeding these in a couple years. The thing is, my male is he'll eat anything, and I've fed him other snakes before, so I just want to make sure that when it comes time to intro, he doesn't see this girl as food. So probably 2 years. Favorite thing about owning Crebos is if you like watching your animals. During the day, they're just all over the place. They cruise. Like I'm watching my male down here, just kind of sniffing around. Um, they're really smart. They rarely ever bite. The only time I've ever been bit was by my male, and it was because he thought I was feeding him. I've actually taken them to elementary schools and preschools, and like kids hold them, pet them, and they're just, they know. Like, look at this. There are rats and mice right over there. This room smells like rodents. She knows she's getting fed. Smart animal. Now, you have respect for them, and they learn you. And this girl's demeanor is very calm and patient. She's very, very easygoing compared to my male, who just doesn't ever sit still. But I can do the same with him. I've handed him off to 5-year-olds, and he's just the most trustworthy animal. So if any of you have kids and you want something that's fun and exciting and different and big, but something you don't have to worry about with your kids, they're not rear fang venomous, none of that stuff. Crebos are awesome. The yellowtails, in my experience, tend to be a little more cantankerous and larger, but they're also, from my impression, less captive bred, but some people are getting it. Um, Blacktails are just too much fun. They're nice. They don't like a lot of heat. As far as the entire Drymarchon genus goes, I think the blacktails are a little bit more tolerant of the heat. But that being said, like anything over 82, you're just going to see really agitated animals. Kind of like with blood pythons when they get too hot. So when, the winter comes, these guys are like cold and they're still eating and they're active and they love it. I have a friend out here who has a bunch of the different species, and I went and checked them all out. And man, it's weird when you go from being in a python room to a colubrid room, and it's cold, and the animals are cold, and things like that. But yeah, so pricing on dries, the high end is going to be like the indigos, the rubidus, or the carias. They're all 1,000 plus. Yellowtails, because they're still not super readily available, you're still going to run $700-800. Blacktails tend to be more affordable, like 500 bucks. So that's not cheap for sure, but it's like buying a 5 gene ball python or something like that, or a nice monitor. So if you're really interested in working with something unique, and you want a budget for it, you won't be disappointed, I'll tell you that. I've been keeping snakes since I was 8 years old, and yeah, these guys have these dope head plates. The first snake I had was a California king snake, so I started out with colubrids, and then I took a hiatus from reptiles and was skateboarding and ruining California, and causing mayhem all over where I lived. And then when I got back into it, in college and afterwards, I picked up a Brazilian rainbow and then a blacktail Crebo before I even got into the basic stuff. So my male Crebo I've had since he was a baby. So yeah, yellowtails are going to cost you a lot. They're still being imported. They're hard to get established as babies, I hear. So even captive born isn't necessarily cheap. Yeah, they do. They do look like false water cobras, or just cobras in general. These big head plates, but yeah, you don't want to heat them too much. Yeah, I'm to blame. These guys don't do well with heat. So as far as keeping them, it's really easy. You can keep them ambient depending on where you live. This girl doesn't have any supplemental heat in her enclosure, and that's just because she's a little bit higher up and there's a spot that sort of radiates from the enclosure below. My male, because he's on the bottom of a stack in a big 6-foot cage, I do give him a very, very small wattage bulb, which he's pretty much never using until this time of year. So They are in the same room as all of my carpet pythons and everything, but because the summer was, manageable with ventilation and stuff, they do all right. Otherwise, I would probably consider moving them into a different room. They just don't like heat. Yellowtails definitely don't like heat. Yeah, so if anybody's on the fence, definitely check these out. They're tons of fun. You'll never get bit by them unless you're, just being silly with feeding. They grow pretty quickly. They start eating out on fish too, so if you ever get like a trouble feeder and you can get like sardine scent and things like that, try that stuff out. But once you get them going, man, they're bottomless pits. I do have to feed these guys a lot more than the rest of my snakes. I feed them weekly because when I don't, they get pissed. So, all right, we've been on here for almost 26 minutes now. Thank you for everybody who's been hanging out. You need one. Hurry up, taxi. Yeah. Well, it's going to be a while before I can add any to the market. So if you're looking for blacktails, hit up John Michaels and who else? Armando Palacios has some right now. There's a lot of people with them. So before I wrap this up, again, if anybody wants t-shirts, you can email me or just message me. Whatever works. Just get a hold of me. They're just $20 shipped. And this year, hoping for pretty much the best breeding season I can aim for thus far. If any of you like children's pythons, I've got a pair that's up to snuff this year, so give them a whirl. And then I should have a good assortment of carpet pythons pairing. Everything from striped jungles to what's going on? Striped jungles to albinos to tigers and caramel tigers and exanthic stuff, exanthic zebras. So a good variety. Potentially some popwin carpets. We'll see. Don't hold me to that one though. But yeah, so 6 or so different pairs of carpets. My Amazon tree boas are in quarantine still, so they might make it. Eric, what up? Yeah, she's looking good. She's getting one more meal today, so I think I'm gonna give him a roll in the hay. The male is pacing like he's aware that she's ready, so maybe he knows something I don't. So I'm gonna give him a shot. So we'll see. But if all goes well, I should have a good variety of carpet pythons and finally, put out some good quality stuff. I'm probably most excited about the Striped Jungle project. That was like the first one I started with, and my female's proven. I picked her up as a baby. I absolutely love that animal. Every time I pull her out for cleaning or whatever, I'm like, good God, I need more of these. And it's very clear why there's diehard jungle people out there when I look at her. But I've got a nice male for her. So if anybody's into jungle stuff, and striped jungles at that, she's going to meet a Van de Ven Ivory male. So good bloodlines. Hopefully we'll get some good color out of everybody and some nice stripes. So I feel like a little kid, like on Christmas Eve, except this Christmas Eve feeling is going to last like 3 months or more. So anyway, lots of carpet pythons coming. You guys need carpet pythons. If you don't have them, please at least hit me up and ask my opinion of them. I will sell you somebody else's carpet pythons even just to get you some. Like, you need them. Trust me. They're fun, wonderful pythons in a variety of colors and sizes, temperaments, like literally the most diverse species out there that most people don't even know about. It's hilarious. I didn't even know about it for the longest time. It's like this underground little like paradise of snakes. So y'all need them. Hit me up for shirts. Get some carpet pythons. Be nice to everybody. Drink coffee. What else? Go vote. I don't know. I'm out of propaganda. Have a good one, y'all. Take care.